Rita, web mistress of the dark. Today I'm going to show you how to make my haunted human heart. It's one of the very first spooky recipes I ever tried making back in the early 90s. It is inspired by Penn and Teller's bleeding gelatin dessert, but they make theirs in a romantic Valentine's heart pan, whereas I was inspired to do it when I found a human heart mold. Now, that's the first thing you'll need for this recipe is a human heart mold. You can find these just about at any Halloween store these days because Halloween's become so much more popular lately, which I love. First, what you want to do is take non-stick cooking spray and spray your mold so that the gelatin will not stick. Now, if you just spray it and leave it, you may have little pools of oil and down in the detail of your mold, which will end up a bubble effect. So what I do is I lay it face down on a paper towel while I'm proceeding with the rest of the recipe. Then the excess oil can drain off. So what you need for the heart is very simple. You just take one large packet of raspberry gelatin dessert, so it's the one with sugar or sweetener already in it. You add a packet of plain gelatin to that, and 1 cup of boiling water, which I have already boiling on my stove here. So 1 cup. And I'll put the gelatin in first. Mix the raspberry one in. So I mix them together first, so the plain gelatin's in with the raspberry dessert, and I've mixed well. Just a little couple stirrs is fine. Then add your boiling water. Stir until completely dissolved. No little grains at all. Doesn't take very long. Once you have all the gelatin dessert and the plain gelatin mixed together in the boiling water, you take half of a can of evaporated milk. I chill my evaporated milk first. It's half a can. If you can find the small cans, the little 5-ounce cans, then just one of those is perfect. I always end up finding a whole can, and so half of the can is good. This basically what it does is it is the cold liquid to set the gelatin, plus it's making it opaque so you don't see through it. So go ahead and add that. And stir well. And you'll see that you can't see through it anymore. That's the whole point. Because there is a trick inside this heart that I will show you later. Okay, so once that's all stirred together, take your heart. Now notice that this does not have a flat bottom to sit on while the Jell-O is stabilizing. So I put it in a bowl that just fits. There you go. It's not going to fall over. And this may get a little messy, but you carefully pour the Jell-O into the mold, but only about halfway. Because you're going to hide your bleeding bladder of blood inside the heart. So about halfway, I go up to where the veins start, where the aorta comes in, the vena cava there. Now you're going to need to refrigerate this, but only until soft set, because you want to make sure the next Jell-O layer you add will stick to the first layer of gelatin. So I'm going to put this in the fridge, and then it will come back to show you how to make the bladder of blood. So the first layer of my heart is in the fridge, waiting to be soft set. So I have time to make the bladder of blood that goes inside it. You need to make sure that you get the thinnest little sandwich baggie that you can. You don't want it too thick because you won't be able to poke the knife through it very well when you're serving it. Don't use a zip top bag because those are really stiff plastic. You're going to be in front of your party guests hacking away at the heart, not able to make it bleed. So you don't need any zip top, just the thinnest plastic stuff. But a bag is still easier than trying to pour anything into just some plain plastic wrap. So you can get as elaborate with your blood as you like. I've actually added Chambord raspberry liqueur into my blood sometimes, but that's when I know I'm having all adults at the party. If I know I'm having kids, I just stick to plain raspberry syrup. You can thicken it with some plain light corn syrup if you like, but the easiest way is just take the syrup straight out of the bottle, pour it into your bag, carefully, and you don't want it all the way full because you need to make sure this fits all the way inside your heart mold with enough area around all sides that there's good gelatin so you don't see any bag through the gelatin. So that's probably more than enough. Now, when you're tying this, you don't want any air bubbles in your bladder of blood. So pinch it off about right where the edge of the syrup is, but you also don't want it too fat. You want it actually lying flatter like that, so you have more room for the gelatin dessert to sit all around it on all sides. So that's about right. So pinch here. Don't tie it too closely. Carefully, without splashing raspberry syrup around. Tie it off. Make sure it's nice and tight so that you don't have any leakage. And then you can just trim the end off with some scissors, and your blood's all ready for when your gelatin is soft set. My heart has just come out of the fridge. I've waited a little over half an hour, which might be a little too much. This should still be sticky enough to set the jello, so I'm going to put the bladder of blood in next. Here we have the bladder of blood I already prepared. Now you're going to set that right on the gelatin that's already set. Make sure the knot is tucked in so it's not going to be peeking out by any of the aorta or vena cava there. And make sure that it's not too close to the edge around the rest, because you want to make sure there's enough gelatin all around it to hide it. So next we'll pour the gelatin in. The bladder of blood is all set. So now we're going to take the rest of the gelatin, give it a little stir because it might have gotten a little clumpy because it's been sitting long enough. Give it a good stir and go ahead and pour it right over the top of the bladder of blood. Fill it all the way up until you have a flat, smooth surface, because it's going to be the bottom of the heart when you put it on a plate. And there you go. Close it right almost up to the top. Now all the rest of the gelatin is now in the mold, covering the bladder of blood, so it's nice and hidden. Don't wait too long for your first layer to set, because you'll have a seam and it might slide against each other. If the first layer has developed a skin, that's too late. You might as well just start over. But if you've caught it within, half hour, 45 minutes or so, then it should still be sticky enough that the new gelatin layer will stick to the previous one and your heart will stay together, no problem. So this goes back in the fridge now, and wait till it's completely, absolutely firm. I prefer to wait overnight before you actually get it out of the mold.